know it's got to be terrible what you and your family are going through right now. So I'm just so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
But, and I'm sure you don't remember this at all, but what I'd asked you about was about the polarization in this country, about like how do we repair that rift. And considering everything that's been going on in the past year, you know, as a Catholic and as someone who like really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that like needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of like winning.
I think you're probably right. I think one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, you know, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. You know, really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that the solution really is like winning the moral argument. Like people in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
Because if we look at like the decline of our society, the decline of the nuclear family, and liberals, I just feel like want to see that happen and proliferate.
And there it is. That was a secret recording of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito that was taped by the Undercurrent's Lauren Windsor. She was posing as a Christian Republican, when in fact Lauren is a liberal activist known for recording Republicans saying the quiet part out loud. Now, first of all, there was no doubt here, but Alito clearly defines himself as being on the right by agreeing with Lauren when she claims that it's no longer possible to negotiate with anyone on the left, to which Alito agrees, saying, "I think you're right." Again, the notion that Alito was not on the right is like not understanding that the sun is hot, but to hear him say it out loud and eliminate any pretense really does put any plausible deniability that he might have had to rest. But worse than that, after planting himself firmly on the right, he confirms that there's no room for reconciliation between the left and right, and that one side has to win, and that there can be no compromise because, as he says, you're not going to split the difference. And so, in effect, what we have here is a Supreme Court justice making it clear that he is fighting on behalf of Republicans, and that his worldview is that there likely will be no compromise, and that his side has to win. The notion that this person is making nonpartisan decisions in the eyes of the law and not in the best interest of his political party is an absolute joke. If Samuel Alito wasn't wearing a robe, he would be indistinguishable from Jim Jordan or James Comer. He then agrees with Lauren that the country needs to return to a place of godliness. Now, I want to be clear. It is not the Supreme Court's job to restore godliness to the U.S. A Supreme Court judge is not a preacher, he's not a pastor, the court is not a church. We are not here to be proselytized or baptized. They are there to interpret the laws. And if anyone should know or respect the separation of church and state, it is quite literally a judge on the highest court in the land. The fact that he doesn't shows how irreparably broken the court is with people like Alito sitting on it. In fact, even John Roberts rejected the premise of Lauren's statement when she made a similar claim to him.
I did want to ask you, like, specifically, like, with everything that's going on right now, it's just, you know, it's a very tumultuous time in the country, and I'm just curious, like, from your perspective on the court, like, how do we start to repair the polarization?
Well, I mean, the first thing I think is to tell me when the non-tumultuous time has been here. I mean, you look at the court, what the court was doing in the 60s, what the court was doing during the New Deal, what the court was doing after Dred Scott and all this. It's kind of a regular thing. People think it's so different and special. It's been pretty tumultuous for a long time.
So you think this is a normal period?
You know, I don't know if it's normal. I mean, since I've been here all 20 years, there have been quieter times. But the idea that the court is in the middle of a lot of tumultuous stuff going on, that's nothing new.
I guess I wouldn't say that it's not like it's an innovative thing. It's not new. I guess I really feel like we're at a point in our country where the polarization is so extreme that it might be irreparable.
Oh, I don't think that.
I think
it's extreme. It's like the Civil War. We did that during Vietnam. People were getting killed. I was there in Vietnam. This is all right. I mean, it's not all right, but it's not like it's as dramatically different. It's a common thing. People with their own perspective think this is so extraordinary. I don't know.
But you don't think there's like a role for the court in like guiding us toward a more moral path?
No, I think the role for the court is deciding the cases. If I said, would you want me to be in charge of guiding us toward a more moral path? That's for the people we elect. That's not for lawyers.
Well, I guess I believe that the founders were godly, like, we're Christians, and I think that we live in a Christian nation, and that our Supreme Court should be guiding us in that path.
Yeah, I don't know that we live in a Christian nation. I know a lot of Jewish and Muslim friends who would say maybe not. And it's not our job to do that. It's our job to decide the cases as best we can.
Well, I don't want to monopolize your time. I really do think
Not at all.
Thank you so much.
At a bare minimum, Roberts recognizes that the United States is not a Christian theocratic nation, at least not by design, despite the best efforts of his colleagues on the court. Although Roberts does downplay the impacts of this court and its decisions, which I presume is more him trying to manifest a reality that doesn't exist than recognizing the realities that we're living through today. A 12-year-old rape victim was just forced to give birth in Mississippi because of the court's decision in Dobbs. I'm pretty sure that this is as dangerous and tumultuous a time in U.S. history almost as the direct result of this very court. So while Roberts was right on the fact that the U.S. was never intended to be a Christian nation, and it was never the court's job to spread godliness, he is straight up wish-casting if he thinks the court is no less responsible for the mayhem that it's causing than any other time in our history. And finally, to make things worse for Alito, here's Lauren's interview with him last year in 2023. Listen to what he said when he spoke about why trust was eroded in the court, according to Samuel Alito.
I just want to ask, I want to be totally appropriate with, the jurisprudence of it all, but, just to be totally candid, like, how do we get America back to a place of, really, less polarization? Because I feel like the court is undergoing this period of turmoil, people don't trust in, I think, just this is the last bastion of, I think, public trust. And, how do we get back to that?
I wish I knew. I don't know. It's easy to blame the media, but I do blame them because they do nothing but criticize us, and so they have really eroded trust in the court. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, ordinary people. Ordinary isn't the right word. American citizens in general need to work on this to try to heal this polarization because it's very dangerous.
I think it's taking us to the brink of, very serious and perhaps non-repairable rifts in the country. And I, for one, am someone I support your ruling on dogs. I support, I am very pro-life, but I don't know how we bridge that gap. How do we get people squeezed?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's something we can do.
Ah, yes, it's the media's fault that trust has eroded in the court, says the Supreme Court Justice, who aligns himself squarely with one political party and says that his party has to win, that there's no compromise with the left, and that his job as a judge is to spread godliness. Sure, let's blame the New York Times and MSNBC for that. Got it. And look, if you've watched my videos, you know that I'll be the first one to criticize how the media has both sides of this country into its current state of disrepair. But I want to be clear. The media's inability to hold Republicans to account is an entirely separate issue from those Republicans themselves, like Samuel Alito, perverting their roles in government to remake the nation in the mold of their Christo-fascist fever dreams. Samuel Alito blaming the media is like a bank robber blaming the getaway car drivers for putting pedestrians at risk. All of which is to say, remember this in November. This is what is on the ballot. The next president will name at least one Supreme Court justice. If it's Trump or any Republican, he'll replace both Alito and Thomas, cementing Republican rule on the court for a generation. You may not love Biden, you may be unhappy with how he's presided over Gaza and Israel, over inflation, over housing, you name it, but this is a bigger issue than Joe Biden. This is privacy rights for the rest of our lives. This is the right to contraception for the rest of our lives. This is abortion rights for the rest of our lives. This is the difference between democracy and a theocracy for the rest of our lives. When we say this will be the most important election of our lifetimes, what we heard from Samuel Alito puts on full display exactly why that is unequivocally true. I've got a really exciting announcement. I've written a book. It's called Shameless. This book explores how Republicans have exploited their historical branding while attacking our democracy, how the media has proven itself a willful participant, and how Democrats can learn from this to rebalance the political scales and save our democracy. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to write my own book, and so I'd like to ask you to pre-order it by clicking the link right here on the screen. And if you buy within this pre-order period, your book is going to come with a signed nameplate. As you know, I've never had a single sponsor on my channel. I don't ask for money or anything like that, but if you're looking for a way to support me, this is hands down the best best way to do it. So again, follow the link right here on the screen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for pre-ordering Shameless. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more of my content.